All right. Well, again, as I mentioned, it's an honor to sit down with you, Dallas. Let's start. Here we are in the middle of season 3. Let's start with how you think things are going differently than maybe season 1 when you started this project. So you have a much bigger fan audience now. I think sometimes the pressure can get added on, to really make sure that it lives up to what it's done so far. Kind of explain your headspace.
Yeah, I mean, I can say this honestly. I don't think about those things.
Yeah.
The fact that the audience is bigger doesn't change that when we're sitting in front of a blank computer screen and have to write an episode, we still have to make a show that people want to see and that honors the spirit and intentions of Jesus in the Gospels. So that part hasn't changed. This season is harder than it's ever been because of weather. We've had COVID issues. There's some scenes that we've done that are bigger, but. Yeah, I mean, other than that, the fact that it's harder, I can't let it feel different. I really have to focus on making sure that we never lose sight of the fact that at the end of the day, we're just trying to make the best show that we can. And whether 10 people watch it or whether 100 million people watch it, that doesn't change our decision making and our creativity. It can't. If I start thinking about avoiding criticism or getting...
But how do you do that in a world where I think that is our tendency to do that? How do you help other people not worry about what others are saying, about what they're doing?
Well, it's God took it away from me several years ago. I mean, I struggled with narcissism and with people pleasing for most of my life, and I had a big career failure and kind of surrendered to God, and someone felt led to tell me in the middle of the night from across the world, it's not your job to feed the 5,000, it's only to provide the loaves and fish. And that truth changed my life, and realizing that, okay, if I can just focus on making the best 5 loaves and the best 2 fish that I can, and delivering them to God, and at that point the transaction's over. And if he feeds 5,000 with it, or if doesn't, that's really not up to me. That truth changed my life, and it's what I practice. And so it's hard, and it took time to kind of get there, but it becomes a superpower when you genuinely don't care what people think, as long as you know that you're doing what you believe honors God. No, that doesn't mean I'm always right. But I just can't think about it. I can't think about it. And those who struggle with that, all I can say is just keep reading the story of the feeding of the 5,000. And if you think that the boy who gave Jesus the 5 loaves and 2 fish was responsible for feeding 5,000 people, then you might have a narcissism problem.
Amen. I feel like in season 3, from what I gather too, we're going to see, the disciples become more bold. And kind of what they're called to do and witness to others. And what's your take in 2022 to being bold and, kind of carrying that message and, in these times, that I think are very relatable.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens in season 3 that's interesting is Jesus in many ways demands it of them. Just like in the Gospels, there's this moment that's kind of strange where Jesus sends the disciples out 2 by 2 and gives them temporarily the power to heal and to cast out demons and to and they preach and they kind of carry out his ministry for this time, and then they come back and you don't hear about it happening again until he dies and resurrects. And so at first we show that they're kind of like, are you sure? Wait a minute, we're going to do it without you and without money and without more than the clothes on our back. This is kind of strange. And I think there's a lesson there of, okay, when we're asked to do hard things, we do them. And now what I think sometimes people do is, in today's world, is boldness is their excuse. I'm bold, I'm just being bold to do things that aren't necessarily the fruits of the Spirit. They're not necessarily God-honoring. And boldness becomes the top priority over gentleness and kindness and goodness and self-control and love. But if you've got those things, if you are pursuing the fruits of the Spirit, having the boldness and confidence about them to deliver them to others, even if that means just your neighbor or just your family member, that's where I think it comes from. And I think sometimes people think boldness means being louder or getting a wider audience. Yeah. And boldness can also just mean the boldness to serve your spouse.
Last question. I did want to touch on music because there was so much, I think, momentum and so much kind of, the Christmas special was awesome. And I think music has its own way of storytelling. Kind of touch on that. And I don't know if there's anything more that you can do with other Christian artists. Again, it seems so popular. How could we not do more of that?
Well, yeah, this year the show itself will be coming out around Christmas, so we're not doing another Christmas special. But I think there's something the music even within the show has been really unique. Our composers, Dan and Matt, Dan Hasseltine, the lead singer and songwriter, Doris Clay, I believe a true genius. The style of the music in the show is very unique. A lot of musicians and worship leaders have come to me and said the show has inspired them to write songs. The show has caused them to love and know Jesus even better, and worship is what comes when you know and love Jesus better. So there does seem to be this great relationship between the show and musicians, and then people who love music and want to be part of that. So we'll do it again. We've got more to come. We've got some albums and some soundtracks that we think we're in development on, because there's just so many great artists. I love doing great art. I love working with great artists, and like you said, it's all storytelling. So I think that's why it felt natural to do a Christmas special like that. And well, let's get season 3 out first.
All right. Well, Dallas, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.